We've all heard it. Macs are safer than Windows. Macs don't get viruses. Macs brush my teeth for me. Well, you get the idea. The saying goes back almost as far as computer viruses and malware themselves. But does it still hold up? Are Macs safer bets than Windows computers when it comes to their security? Let's talk about it. Hi everyone, my name is Seth with Seth on Security, where we talk about cybersecurity topics and break down complex technical discussions into simpler pieces, and then talk about the ethical, legal implications and the effects on our daily lives. If you enjoy the videos I bring, please like the video, leave a comment below, and let me know what you would like to see next. With that, let's talk about Macs and Windows. So let's go over what exactly is out there that threatens both Mac and Windows computers, and how much each of them is targeted. The number of Windows users is almost 9 times higher than Mac in the desktop laptop market, at least as of the end of 2020. Windows is almost 90% of the operating system market share, and Mac has just under 10. Linux team, you guys are the real special ones, with only 2% of all operating systems. These operating systems have very technically different architectures. A malware written for one will not work on another without some extra work to port or convert the malware code to work with the other operating systems. Here's an anecdote. I had a revelation a few years back as I used more Linux or just not Windows computers, because executable files or .exes will not work on operating systems other than Windows, and they certainly don't work on Linux. If you're a lifelong Windows user, you may fall into the same trap as I had for so long, thinking we can just use an executable file for everything, even on other operating systems. But it's not so. That's just one way that things are different between these two big operating systems. Now, by the same logic, if I was a malware author, I would look at this statistic, and I would then proceed to write malware that will infect Windows computers 10 times more often than even touching Mac variants. And over the years, well, that's exactly what happened. In most all corporate environments, certainly ones with 500 plus computers, Windows is almost certainly the operating system being used. The ease of administering the systems through Active Directory and Sysmon make it perfect for enterprise environments. For Macs, corporate isn't really their target audience or their brand, so you don't see them in large numbers in corporate environments. Any IT system administrators or security practitioners watching will know the pain of finding the Macs that are in the environment, because it's always such a small number to keep in the inventory. In physical security, it's often said that we should think like the intruder or the attacker. The same can be applied to cyber. Using this path of thinking, if you were a threat actor, would you rather put your malware or ransomware on a company computer using Windows, where it could spread through the environment and lock up tons of computers, giving you a lot more bargaining power for the ransom, or would you rather infect a single Mac user who, even if they are on a corporate network, your malware cannot pivot to other Windows systems because it won't work? I think it is a pretty clear choice. It's a simple case of following the money. The point is that Mac malware does exist. In fact, it's actually been on the rise. A report from Kaspersky in 2019 found that the number of malicious files targeting Macs have increased almost exponentially in the last decade. Now, the data is a little bit old, from 2019, but it shows that some malware authors may be catching on to the Mac user base and their general lack of anti-malware software. So what kind of malware is most prevalently infecting Macs? Adware. At least in this report from Kaspersky detailing their most frequent detections during the first half of 2019. And the reason is simple. Adware is just all over the place. It's spread wide and it reaches more targets. Kind of like the same dilemma we talked about earlier with the Windows and Mac malware authors. This adware is often bundled with free software, or it's downloaded when a user visits an unsafe site and told to, do something like, quote, updating Flash Player, end quote, in order to proceed. We've all seen these kinds of scams. This downloads the adware, and since most Mac users don't have an antivirus, it goes unnoticed. The adware then displays ads to the user all over their computer where it can, which generates ad money for the original author. It isn't malicious, I would say, but it's what we call in security a PUP, or a potentially unwanted program. Now, simultaneously, having a smaller target size presented a potential marketing opportunity for Mac from the beginning. They don't get viruses. Take this now removed example from the Apple.com website. Mac doesn't get PC viruses. A Mac isn't susceptible to the thousands of viruses plaguing Windows-based computers. That's thanks to built-in defenses in Mac OS X that keep you safe without any work on your part. This statement was deceptive and just untrue. Well, mostly. It's true that Macs are not susceptible to many of the viruses on Windows computers, but that's because of the architectural differences between them that prevent those viruses from working in their current state, like we talked about earlier. Not because of a Mac security feature. If rewritten, as we have seen with some malware, they work just the same. In fact, in 2020, over half of the newly discovered unique malware species actually originated on Windows or a Windows platform, a non-Mac platform. Here's a few to name that started with Windows infections, but also have Mac variants. So no, not only are Macs able to become infected with malware, but deceptive marketing like this also contributes to users carelessly and ignorantly browsing and downloading software from the depths of the web and not expecting any consequence for the action. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. Now again, to their credit, there is a little more transparency than 10 years ago, and that statement is no longer on their site. So, another old advantage for Macs was actually in their development. It was a much more closed-off platform when it came to flexibility compared to Windows. When there's more to look at, in terms of software, there are more exploits and vulnerabilities to find and eventually poke at for any attacker, making the attack surface for that operating system much wider. Because Windows allowed this flexibility, their attack surface was much wider than the Mac attack surface. Windows has done a lot to improve their security posture. Features like AMSI, or Anti-Malware Scanning Interface from Microsoft, are allowing any developer to scan supplied content to the AMSI API and determine if it is safe to run in their own application. Windows apps do this too, making it harder for malicious files and scripts to run without bypassing the AMSI technology first, which is possible. This is just one example Microsoft has taken to increase their system security out of the box, and it brings it a little bit closer to their main competitor in the space. It may be time to end the adage that Macs are safer than Windows computers just out of the box. Both, left unprotected, are, well, exploitable, and malware can be used on either operating system. In some ways, it parallels physical security. For example, making a target harder to attack, or more risky for the attacker, makes them more likely to look for other, weaker targets. Many cyber criminals, especially those in the personal computing space, so think of like the scammers and freeware unwanted programs, are just actors of opportunity. Just like thieves and robbers in the physical security space, looking for opportunities to attack, in the digital space, they look for the exact same thing. For Windows users, the defenselessness of the operating system out of the box is well understood, and it's been historically beat into them. They're more likely to take precautions in their computing habits and use an antivirus software. But the same cannot be said for the traditional Mac user. It seems that the biggest security weakness for Mac users is the false sense of security among the same users. The same sense that will end up compromising the computer. I'm not calling out Mac users to say they don't know what they're doing, but I'm merely pointing out the facts and recommending a new awareness when it comes to their security and even online safety. These days, using one kind of computer or another has no guarantee of protecting you unless you first protect yourself.